Hello all you artists out there and welcome to Half Term Art Club. There's so much in store this week, kicking off today with object printing and pattern making with a bit of paper weaving as well. It'd be fantastic if you got the rest of the family involved and make it a really great family art experience. I can't wait to see what you create, so please do make sure you send in photos and we'd be able to host them in our gallery as well. See you over at the activities, everybody. You'll need paint today. I've used acrylic and watercolor, my paintbrush there, and some collage materials. But first I'm going to explain to you relief printing. You can make a relief print with almost any surface that has texture, including fruit and vegetables and dried pasta that you can find in your kitchen. Please do check for permission first. I'm using potato pieces and dried pasta like this, but corn on the cob, apples and celery work really well too. I'm also using corrugated card, and I'll be using masking tape and felt dots later on. Cut your foodstuffs into smaller pieces, making a flat surface. And if using apples, you could slice through the middle to reveal the interesting flower design made by the seeds inside. Spread out your paint and mix colours you wish to create. I've used acrylic paint, as you can see here. You could add dish soap, like very liquid, to thicken the consistency of the paint in order to make crisper, clearer patterns. Starting with the corrugated cardboard, dip it into the paint face down and gently press smoothly so that it coats the surface evenly. Then press down firmly on your paper and carefully remove without nudging it out of place. Corrugated cardboard is made up of 3 layers. The first layer is top paper layer, and in the middle there's a waffle layer, I call it, and the third layer is the back paper layer. When you tear away the top layer to the waffle layer, you see how you create these brilliant linear patterns. Then I move on to relief printing using my potato, my semicircle here, like a half moon shape, and I'm choosing the placement so that each print is made equidistant or equal distance roughly from the previous one. You can extend this activity and make it more complex by working in layers, and I'll show you what I mean by this using my felt dots, sticky dots that you can find in the pound shop, in lots of local hardware shops for furniture legs. You start by setting up several different colours of paint, stamping with one colour at a time, and then stamping over the first print with a different colour or even a different shape. Now, I'm stamping here into different shades of blue, and then I'm mixing with white. You see here how the colours marble together. Love it! Next up is my spaghetti. So as before, I'm dipping it into my spread out paint, equidistant, equal distance from the previous prints. It's quite an abstract pattern making here. No recognizable people, objects, landscapes, but instead I'm using color and shape and pattern for effect. It's a bit like rainfall on mountaintops there. I like it. You can even use scrunched up tissue paper to daub in, creating a different texture, filling up that page. Okay, now I'm going to work with watercolor, and I'm using masking tape as a simple alternative to masking fluid. Masking fluid is a liquid latex that dries to a rubbery waterproof film, allowing you to block out areas in your painting that you want free of colour. The colour I'm using is watercolor. So you see I've marked off with masking tape a grid, an each of the rectangular sections I'm going to paint a different colour. I'm going to try to make contrasting colours adjacent to each other where I can. But you don't have to, it can be completely up to you. You go for bright, bold, beautiful rainbow effect. Filling in, and then I leave that to dry while I move on to my next artwork. About 20 minutes that will take. Bit more free flow this time with my relief printing. I'm going to take my potato and dip it in my vivid red here. I'm just going to explore free flowing movements of my wrist across the surface of my paper. What I really like is how the colour drags and it creates this balance of saturated colour and areas where the colour is less present. Then I can take my watercolor and exaggerate those free flowing forms, almost following them around my bright cheery yellow. Just flicks here and there. It's quite playful. And there we go. You can also today work with collage. I've got some grid pattern paper here, like the kind you find in a man's journal, for example. Cutting out some shapes, teardrops, triangles, and masking tape those down. Random order to this, there's not really any coherent form. Then I experiment with more relief printing with my dry pasta, keeping in mind that linear idea, but playfully drawing it out, even on top of the masking tape. And you can tie in the colour blocking, watercolour blue here, in contrast to the more formal structured lines. I like balancing out with free flowing paintbrush strokes. Into the negative space created by the absence of collage. And there we go, leave that to dry. Now, returning to my masking tape experiment, I'm pulling it away. This does work best on thicker card as opposed to paper, but look at the clean, crisp lines I've been able to achieve where the paint has not seeped into the paper because of the masking tape. Isn't that fun? Now, you could fill up those blanker spaces, or indeed on top of the rectangles themselves. Here's my felt dot again. Extending the pattern by building in some circular forms. You can also work with collage for contrast. I really like this William Morris print I found in the newspaper the other day. But I'll just show you what it looks like to roll with your pasta and the scattiness of texture that provides. Really quite scratchy, I think. It's a fun contrast. Now, this is another really cheap, cheerful way of colour blocking. Kitchen sponge dipped into my acrylic paint and wiping that bold strokes across my paper. It's nice how you can see here various colours coming through. You can build this up, alternate the direction of your strokes. Gorgeous. So here's a few of what I've been working on today. Do leave those to dry. Another nice way of filling a page with colour is with pastels or crayons. Taking colours close to each other in the colour wheel here, green and blue, and just letting my hand move, my wrist move, where it wants to go on the page. Quite a mindful exercise this. With pastels, the nice thing is you can choose whereabouts you're going to smudge, and the smoothness of those areas smudged contrasts the crisper lines. Quite a scatty little artwork, this one. I like it. Now this is a contrast of tan coloured pastel and black, and you see it move backwards and forwards in a zigzag motion. I'm going to return back over and retrace some of those lines with my black. It's a real feel of speed here, of flurry, of movement. And back over again, this time with the white. And next up, some chalk printing. You're going to need a tray for this. I've lightly sprayed mine with water and I placed my paper inside so it's dampened. And then on top of that, I am grating my chalk using a sieve, kitchen sieve. Again, ask permission from whoever is in the house before you use this. Once I've grated my colours on, spray a little bit of water on, and then return to fill up any areas where I think need a bit more colour. I've used a combination of purples, blue, yellow, like a sky scene here, sunset sky. And carefully lift that out, leave that to dry for about 10 minutes. Next one, I'm using an 8B pencil, which is a softer lead than your usual HB or H pencil. This is a wooden grain pattern. Now I'm inspired by the gorgeous pattern of my wooden tabletop here, and I've decided to magnify that pattern and simplify those lines. As you can see here, drawing in the grooves. It's an organic shape this, so you don't need a rubber. You won't notice any mistakes you'll make, because there aren't really any mistakes. Really effective linear pattern just using a pencil. Still using my pencil, this next pattern is inspired by Dutch artist Pierre Mondrian. He was best known for his abstract paintings. They don't show things we recognise like people, objects or landscapes, but use instead shapes, texture and colour for effect. Now Mondrian often used primary colours, red, blue and yellow, in his paintings. Interestingly, he didn't use rulers to measure out his lines, and as you can see here, I'm following that same idea. I'm building up a bit of a checkerboard effect here, but the sizes of the squares and rectangles are uneven. I then take my felt tips, you can use colouring in pencils, working basic 3 colours, red, yellow and grey. At random, I'm filling in some of those quadrilaterals, unevenly shaped squares and rectangles. Finally, for today everybody, I'm going to show you how to do a warp and weft weave. For this you're going to need to have one of your pattern or colour pages horizontally landscape placed, cut out 1 centimetre thick strips. The other, have it portrait and cut out 1 centimetre strip. Then you need another piece of paper, glue along the top, and start by placing what we call your warp pieces all along the top there, gluing them on. Warp are areas of string on a loom, on a weaving loom, that don't move. Your weft is the part of the weaving that moves through the loom. I start with my weft piece at the top left, and I want to move it underneath our first piece of warp, so I lift it up underneath. In weaving, the best way to get a nice tight weave is to repeat the pattern under, over, under, over, under, over, as many times as you can. As you can see here, under, over, under, over. And then use your fingers to squish it up to the top. So now I take my second piece, I repeat the pattern, but this time the opposite of what I did before. So now I'm going over, under, over, under, over, under. Can be a bit fiddly at times, but once you get the hang of it, that repeating pattern, it's much easier. You'll see it starts to make a checkerboard pattern. Next up, under, over, under, over, under, over, right way to the end. I've chosen two pieces of artwork I created today that I thought complemented each other because of the colours, the purples, the reds, the lighter shades of lilac, but also the contrast, because one was very light and delicate, the other is much bolder. So you could do this too with any of the pattern pages you've made today. It's building up those warp and weft. Nearly at the end now. It becomes much easier actually the shorter the pieces of warp are to weave in the weft. And when you get to the end, you can glue on to your underlayer of paper this bottom area of the page, or you can use masking tape, turn it over, either way, to fix it down. And you can also take your scissors and trim off any little pieces that stick out the side. There we go. Tidying that up. Sign your work on the back, and thanks everybody for watching. Please do send in what you create.